Let's see who is eating good in the neighborhood. And this is served by Applebee's. So let's go over to the NFC, the top three seeds in the NFC. So that would be the Lions, the Eagles, and the Vikings, who all now have gotten themselves to 12 wins, the race for the one seed in the NFC. What's most interesting about this to you?
Well, the interesting thing is that you've got three teams sitting right there. I can remember the times that we were 12-2, and you feel like you're cruising. You're ahead of the game,
Right.
and you talk about should we rest our starters or whatever. But now you've got three teams with two losses battling it out, and then we know that Minnesota is going to play Detroit at the end, the last game, and that could decide everything. So. It's really, really interesting, but you've got these tremendous teams in the NFC North and then Philadelphia on this winning streak.
I worry about the Lions, and I heard Coach Campbell saying all of his thoughts about he's not worried about all these injuries and all those things. But Hutchinson was their best defensive lineman. Lee McNeil was their second best defensive lineman. They went and got Carlton Davis because they were giving up too many big plays last year. So when you start erasing all these guys from the equation and the defense that had been so improved, and you're feeling like that's a strength now of that group, you look up and you go, man, where are all those guys that we were excited about? How concerned are you at this point about Detroit?
I am concerned. And, you don't want to have a game like that in December where you have a big game and you give up 40 plus points. That's got to be nerve wracking. But I will say this our Super Bowl year, we had the same type of thing. We had a bunch of injuries. Bob Sanders was out. We're down defense backs. We gave up almost 400 yards rushing to Jacksonville in the December game. We got crushed. Everybody said, well, it's over with. And I went back and said, you know what, we're going to get some of these guys back. But until they get back, we just have to know what we're doing, crank it up. We're not going to change anything. And we ended up playing better defense down the stretch and going to the Super Bowl. And so I love what Dan Campbell said. Hey, we're going to embrace this. We might win 2-0. We might win 45-43. It doesn't matter. We've got to win. And that's their mentality.
Well, he's going to believe. So let's see the remaining schedules then for these 12-win teams, Coach. So this is the Lions, the Eagles, and the Vikings. The Lions, they got at Chicago, at San Francisco, and then Minnesota. For the Eagles, at Washington, which can be a tricky game. Dallas, who's gotten better, and then the Giants to close it out. Vikings are at Seattle. Seattle's got a little desperation on their breath now, coming off that loss to Green Bay. Then they play Green Bay and at Detroit. So that is the lineup coming down the home stretch for the 12-win squads.
Yeah, you look at the Lions that you figure they should win these next two games, even though they're on the road. That makes it a little bit tougher, but you're playing teams. Chicago struggling right now, San Francisco dealing with a lot of injuries. So you feel good about those two. Philadelphia, division games against teams that would love to knock you off. At Washington, who's in the playoff hunt, and then Dallas, who would love nothing more than to hurt your playoff chances. So these next 2 weeks will be interesting. Vikings, tough road game at Seattle, and then Green Bay, who's playing tremendous football. But if these teams can win both of those games, that would set up Detroit at home against the Vikings. And man, that could possibly be for all the marbles.
I get the feeling like Philly's the team to beat in the NFC right now. A lot can change in a week, like we saw. I mean, you're feeling great about Detroit. All of a sudden, you erase these pieces, and you're maybe not feeling so great about Detroit. But Philly, to me, they still feel like the bullies of this conference. Would you agree?
I think right now they have the best defense in place. But I'll tell you what, Minnesota is playing well. They're playing with confidence. And then you look at a couple of Phillies games now. We saw them a couple of weeks ago where Jacksonville has a chance. Trevor Lawrence throws an interception in the end zone, and they hang on to win that game. So they've played a couple of close games. I don't know who's the best team in this conference yet.
I'm with you. I just like the fact that Philly can come out and they can Saquon Barkley you, and you got to deal with that. They got this offensive line that's 6'8", 360 across the board, and they're pushing you around. And then all of a sudden they can have Hurts drop back, and they can hit A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on you. They got a multitude of ways to beat you and ways to play, and that typically translates well to January.
It does. And the fact that their defense, I think it's been, I don't know how many games since they've given up 20 points. And
Yeah.
that really is saying a lot right now, this time of year, playoff time. We know we've got a defense that can go out there and lock people down. Detroit, we're hurting on defense. Minnesota has played tremendous defense early in the season, a little bit up and down now. I think they'll get back to playing December football on defense as well. But Philadelphia right now just looks rock solid on both sides.
Yeah, they do. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right there in your hometown, Coach. This Bucks team, they're getting hot. The Chargers have lost 2 in a row. Now they lost to Kansas City in a close one, and they really got blown out by the Bucks. It was 40-17, the final. What are you thinking with Tampa right now?
There is a lot of confidence in the city right now. There's a lot of confidence in that Tampa Bay locker room. And I'll have to say, they surprised me going out west to LA. I thought they could win the game. I thought if everything went right, maybe they can pull it off. Chargers leading the league in scoring defense, and the Bucks put up 40 points on them. That said a lot to me. Explosive offense. They're playing opportunistic defense now, and they believe.
Yeah, they're a bit of a sleeper over there in the NFC. It's a team that, they had a good run and they've had some down runs, and now they're getting hot again at the right time. Baker, I feel like he just always gives you a chance, and we saw him in the playoffs last year show that they can do some things. Do you feel like they can make a run, and if they do, what would that look like?
I really do think they can. They had a stretch where they had some injuries. They were not playing well in the middle of the season, but we have to realize now this team has beaten Philadelphia and they've
Yep.
gone into Detroit and beaten Detroit. And so even though they don't have that great record, they have played toe to toe with those top teams. So they're going to be an interesting team come January.
Yeah, it's amazing what Mike Evans continues to do, and that stretch you mentioned when they had those injuries, that was when they were without their receivers, and it always looks
Yes.
different when you're without your best. They're on the outside, doesn't it?
Yeah, they had a tough time threatening people. They were falling behind. People were running the ball. Well, now their offense is scoring. People are having to throw, and the pass rush and the Todd Bowles blitz scheme is really taking people out of their element. And they're playing as well as anybody right now on this 4-game win streak.
That's good. Maybe we're going to take Sunday Night Football to Tampa Bay next year. We'll see how that goes.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.